BuchananTexags.com. And yeah, Craig, can you imagine hey, and we've had it. I don't think we've ever had, hey, the press conference is at 10 o'clock and the press release at 9:30.
I don't know. Maybe during the really dark period, about 4 or 5 years ago, there might have been some impromptu press conferences called that I just blacked out at this point. But nothing along those lines where you've had a Baylor head coach need to call an impromptu press conference to address what another coach in the league said over, cheating allegations, basically. So, all that was very entertaining, very interesting. Now, spring meetings will suddenly become an even much, bigger event than it was kind of already. And, man, it's going to be really interesting to see what's kind of said there. And I'm sure they'll run into each other in a hallway somewhere, at some point. So that'll be something to check out for sure and see what comes out of those SEC meetings. But, I understand why Jimbo reacted the way that he did. I understand why Saban, is I guess coming from where he's coming from, because I do think that I think ultimately, yes, all he was doing was telling Alabama fans hey, we need more money from you. I think that was the basic gist of it. And then he went sideways and then, involved Dion and involved Miami and involved Jimbo. And I don't know what he was thinking saying that they paid every player. Only I can just imagine he must have thought he was back in the 1990s, early 2000s when not everybody had camera phones. That's all I can think of. Or he's just so comfortable that he wasn't even thinking of the possibility that somebody's going to shoot this to the internet in 5 seconds after I say it. But regardless, it was a miscalculation on his part. He doesn't typically have a lot of those, but he did. And, Jimbo responded in kind. I think, Jimbo was a little over the top in his reaction, a little too defensive in some ways, but I can understand being upset. And again, I don't think anybody's oh my gosh, I can't believe they're cheating or allegedly or whatever. Again, we all know it's part of the deal, and there's things on the up and up, and there's things that are not, and there's things that happen that, get you a top recruiting class, but it's not just an A&M, it's not just an Alabama, it's a lot of different schools that are involved in things and this NIL world, and I'm not even mad about it. I don't even really, like I said earlier, I don't even care. It's not even about that. It's just about hey, can we just make sure that there's a little fence built around it so there is some semblance of structure. But other than that, if it creates stories like this, then I'm all for it.
Yeah. But it is interesting to see them debating these things. I saw somebody put up,
you're both doing it.
You're both doing it. And the other thing is, walk into the Alabama football facility and there's a freaking waterfall.
Dude, I went on this rant 2 months ago, and then I saw Stuart Mandel mention it last night. But I said this 2 months ago, a whole rant. I don't know if we ever clipped it or whatever, but I was talking about those crimson-colored waterfalls that Alabama had in their facility, and I was talking about how ridiculous having the TV screens in every individual locker, and then you turn around and you say, oh, but we can't afford to pay the players. But they got brand new PS4s in every single locker. None of that made any sense. And there was a time period 5 or 6 years ago when college football, the facilities race got so absurd with we've done everything we can possibly do. Now we have to make colored waterfalls or put barber shops in, the field house or any number of other things. Everybody's got a PlayStation or TV in their locker, so on and so forth. It's they ran out of things to spice up these facilities. They're so freaking nice. And then you ask, yeah, but there's no money for the players. So you got 10,000. Remember when Texas was bragging? It wasn't Texas bragging, but remember it was people were, oh my gosh, $10,000 TVs in every Longhorn player's locker. Remember that? We were all wow, that's amazing. And the whole time I'm just thinking, but you can't pay the players? Put $10,000 TV in their locker that they might watch for 20 minutes at a time, maybe, because they're not living there, but you can't give them a little money. So that all was just so obviously just programs dripping with money and trying to flaunt it however they could to pull in recruits. And now they don't have an argument of not having money or not having this or not having that, because we know they do. And so, there's a lot that comes with today's college football world, but one thing that's been very interesting over the last 24 hours for sure has been this little dust up. And I think Saban, the dumbest remark he made was to say that A&M paid for every player in their class. I was surprised that he went to that level, even if he didn't even think even if he was completely oblivious to being on camera, to say that statement. Especially you saying that, come on, man, that wasn't right. But, Jimbo responded in kind, so did Dion. And if he pops off again, I'm sure the next person will as well. And like I said, SEC meetings will be fun.
Well, they beat you with some of those players that came in before NIL the year before. I mean, like, that's why it makes it even sillier. It's like, yeah, look.
Johnny Manziel wasn't making any. Oh, wait.
But I'm just talking about that last year's class. But no, I mean, look, I would assume there's a couple guys right at the top of that class that's how they got them. That's how they got them over the top, and that's great. But most of the class that was going to be there, they're the same kind of players that are always there.
Well, I don't think you even need to justify. It's just simply they don't need to pay for an entire class of recruits. I mean, they can land 4 stars and even land 5 stars without having to do that, and they've proven that before. So I just think, in general, to say that they paid for every player in their class, they paid for their whole class, that was just obviously a throwaway comment. But when you say it and it's on camera and then the rest of the world sees it, it's a dumb-looking comment on Saban's part.
Yeah. No, it really was. It really was. When we come back, we'll get in some of the chat right here. Gerald Joyner says Bobby Bowden built LSU, not Jimbo. Now, that is true to certain regards, in that Bobby Bowden built FSU into the power, and so it was an easier spot for Jimbo to roll into. But when Jimbo took over, they had to redo a lot of the things they did there.
Yeah, but that was Bowden's program.
Yeah, but he built it back up, and then he also subsequently helped tear it down. Right. So it's a very unique situation. But, yeah, I mean, no, Bobby Bowden built Florida State. It was his program, but Jimbo put his own step on it and brought him into the modern era, and then seemingly took the internet out of the building when he left. To just ripped down to the rivets all the things that happened on his way out the door, not just the last year, but the last couple of years that happened at Florida State. When we come back, the SEC's response